Guys, the NFL divisional matchups are set. I get a fist pump.
Yes,
How about over here? Okay, see, we are ready to go. We're ready to break it down all of the good stuff for you. We've got plenty of action tonight on the hardwood in both the NBA and college ranks. And in case you guys forgot, the national championship game is Monday night.
I did forget about that already.
With so much going on, it does kind of get lost in the chatter. You say absolutely not. Well, we'll see what you got to say about that. But on top of all of that fun stuff, we've got a ton of fun prop and futures bets also available on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. And alongside these sport betting experts here in studio, we also have sports analytics specialist Eddie Gross joining us from Dallas. Make sure you check out his podcast called Hazard Play. New episodes released every Thursday on iTunes and the Vogel app. Make sure you download the free FanDuel Sportsbook app right now because you're going to be able to see the lines that we're going to talk about on our show, and you can place your bets in real time on the app. So sign up for your account using the promo code MOREWAYS25, and you'll get a free $25 bet plus a free bet up to $500 in site credit. All right, guys, you ready to do this?
Oh, yeah.
Do it.
Let's roll. And before we head to the big weekend, let's begin with what's going on tonight around the NBA. And we're going to start with the nationally televised game, Denver at Dallas. The Mavs' Luka Doncic has picked up right where he left off after missing 4 games with an ankle injury. He's averaging 31 points, 10 boards, and 9 assists since his return. However, the Mavericks are just 4-3 during that span. So, Mark, I'm going to start with you here. This is Denver's last game of a 5-game road trip. Tonight, they're getting 2.5 points. The total is set right there at 220 and a half. Who do you like in this one?
I actually like Denver in this spot. And normally, you guys, when you look at a long road trip like this, a 5-game road trip, which Denver is finishing up here, you would say never touch a team when they're on that final game of a long road trip like this. But remember, Dallas delivered Denver's first loss of the season in Denver all the way back in October. And the fact that there's going to be no Kristaps Porzingis tonight, Dave, clogging up the middle for Dallas means that Jokic is going to have a huge game. So I love getting some points here with the Nuggets. I think they're in a great spot. And they got a loss earlier in this road trip. I think they learned their lesson against a team like Washington. They bounce back tonight and get a win.
Well, the Nuggets beat Atlanta in their most recent game, but winning has been a bad thing as far as the bettors are concerned because the Nuggets are 0-5 against the spread coming off of a game in which they won. So to me, they're not going to put 2 back together in back-to-back games, and they just don't match up overall very well against Dallas, only covering 2 out of the last 8 against the Mavs. So we're on opposite sides here, Mark. Give me the Mavericks.
Ed, you're in Dallas, so I'm excited to get your take on this game. Possibly.
Ed!
Yes. Hi, everybody. Hi. How's it going? Hi. Oh, yeah, Nuggets, Mavericks. I should probably talk about that being in Dallas. Hey, Mavericks' second best effective field goal shooting percentage. Kristaps Porzingis, he's out. That hurts the rebounding disparity that already exists here against the Nuggets. After all, Denver, #1 in offensive rebounding rate. I still think, given how well Dallas protects the basketball and that they don't turn it over, fundamentally sound, outstanding coach from Rick Carlisle. He's continuing the trend of being one of the great head coaches in the NBA. I think the Mavericks can cover.
My man.
Someone Postmates that guy a coffee, right? All right, 2 of the top teams in the East square off in Indiana as the Heat take on the Pacers. Miami's been one of the best teams covering the number, posting at a 21-13-2 record against the spread, good for 3rd best in the league. But this matchup, guys, figures to be a close one because their last 5 meetings have been decided from an average of about 5.5 points. So, Dave, I'm going to come to you first. The Pacers are a point favorite tonight, so who's going to win this one?
I don't think it's going to be close. I think the Pacers get it done. The Heat aren't as good on the road. 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 on the road. A couple other stats that don't fare well for them are 0-5 against the spread, the last 5 against Indiana. And 2-7 against the spread the last 9 when playing in Indiana. So everything in me tells me that the Pacers are the right side here.
It always makes for good fodder, though, when Dave and I are on the opposite sides of these games. Yes. If you look at these two teams, first of all, this is probably a stay-away game tonight. And I say that because both teams are dinged up with injury. But the fact is if you're going to play this game, the Heat have won 7 of the last 10, while the Pacers are much below that type of number in their last 10. Add to the fact that Jimmy Butler is supposed to come back tonight in this game. You have no Sabonis. Malcolm Brogdon is questionable to return to the game. So for me, when you look at the Pacers and the fact that they are going to be dinged up in this game, I know they're the home team here, but that's why the spread is so low. I would side with Minnesota.
Ed, I'm coming to you now. How do you see this one playing out?
I meant Miami.
I can hear you just fine. Yes, Miami revolutionizing basketball. What they are doing with zone defense has been absolutely unbelievable. And you're starting to see other teams copycat what they're doing with that zone defense. So now it's all about how Indiana attacks it. They have not performed well. At one point, they were 23rd in offensive efficiency against the zone defense. Miami ranks 4th in effective field goal percentage. They have additional rest. Yes, injuries are a problem there, but they do have enough shooters to where I think the Heat can take care of it.
Great stuff. Okay, guys, let's head west to Salt Lake City, shall we? Where the Knicks will meet the Jazz in New York's last of a 4-game road trip. And it has just been a rough year for New York, but it gets worse when they play the second of back-to-back games. Get this, they've lost 4 of 5 in those back-to-backs by an average of 22.5 points. Utah, on the other hand, is absolutely streaking, winners of 6 straight, beating opponents by an average of 10 points during that span. Mark, I'm coming to you first.
Okay.
Knicks are getting 12.5 points tonight, over under 216. How do you see this game going?
Well, remember what I told you about a team at the end of a long road trip? I think I'm also I'm going against that trend when you talk about that Dallas-Denver game, but I'm sticking with it here, and that's because the Knicks are just a god-awful team right now. They lost by 30 last night against Los Angeles, and now they have to make their way out to Utah, which, by the way, is the hottest team in the NBA right now, winners of 9 of their last 10 games. And, of course, you know they are fantastic at home. So even though it's a big number here at 12.5, I still think this is a great opportunity to jump on the Jazz. They've been playing the best basketball of the season, and that will continue tonight.
Dave, what are you thinking?
I'm going to stay away from the side here, but I love the total in this game. It seems like when Utah plays good teams, they have to rely on defense. But when they play bad teams, they really like to put the pedal to the metal and blow them out. So I think they're going to try to score, 125, 130 here. Who knows? Maybe the Knicks can keep up and still cover. But I love the over in this game. In the last 7 times that these two teams have played, the Knicks and the Jazz, it's gone over every single time. So they match up to score a lot of points. I love the over here.
Dave's checking the over at 216. Ed, where are the numbers telling you here? What do you think?
Well, if Utah scores 120, 130, then the Knicks may only score 65 to 70, and so that total is a little bit tricky there. But Knicks playing the second of a back-to-back on the road, that's a scary proposition. They're already 28th in effective field goal percentage, while Utah is 6th. Huge disparity in terms of overall offensive ability. Other than turnover rate, the Jazz have the advantage in all of the major factors, especially with Rudy Gobert. He is 17th in the NBA in real plus-minus, and that's important because Gobert isn't even the team's leading scorer. Utah looking good right now. I think they can cover them.
All right, great stuff, guys. All right, let's focus our attention now to the college level, where it seems like a top 10 team is being knocked off literally every single week. So we're going to start with the number 2 team, Duke Blue Devils, on the road at Georgia Tech. Duke's been on a mission since their stunning home loss to Stephen F. Austin back in November, winning 7 straight by an average of 23.5 points. And by the way, the Blue Devils are 10-1 all-time on the road at Georgia Tech when ranked in the top 5. Dave, I'm coming to you. Duke's laying 12 points here and totals 139.5. Do you agree with this line?
I think they're going to cover. Wendell Moore Jr. broke his right hand, so he's going to be out. That's a missing link for them, but still, they average 84 points per game. They've beaten Georgia Tech 12 straight times now. They should make easy work of this game. I think they'll easily cover the 12.
Yeah, Dave, and when I look at this game, I think the fact that Duke's won their last 2 games by 30 points, and now that this line has actually dropped from 12.5 down to 11.5 coming into this morning, I think Duke's in a great spot right now. They are hitting their stride. They took notice of what other top-ranked teams have been suffering through and being dealt losses, as Danny mentioned. So I think in this situation right here, Coach K has this team ready. They're really hitting their stride heading into ACC play.
Let's keep rolling. We've got another top 5 team that could be on upset alert as number 3 Kansas travels to Iowa State. And last season, the then-ranked number 5 Jayhawks were beaten by 17 points at the hands of the Cyclones in Ames. And doesn't get much better as they've lost 3 out of their last 4 trips to Iowa State as a top 5 team. So, Ed, I'm going to come to you first here on this one. Kansas is a 4.5-point favorite. Should the Jayhawks be on upset watch tonight?
I would not put them on upset watch. Kansas comes in second in Ken Pom, in part because they've had one of the tougher non-conference schedules in the country. Iowa State, 55th in the same metric. with an average non-conference slate. And that's important here because Iowa State already has some bad losses. Keep in mind on some of those games where Kansas went into Ames and lost, there were significant injuries and, sort of mixing and matching that I think put Kansas on upset alert. I do not see that happening this time. Kansas has regrouped from a lackluster last season. Udoka Azubuike, he is such a game changer. Expect him to have a massive performance. I think Kansas takes care of it.
Dave, how's this one playing out?
I agree. I also like Kansas. They were number 1 last month, and they lost to Villanova, and then they dropped to number 5. They know that if they lose a game like this, they could quickly drop out of the top 10. So they know what they need to do. They're giving up just 36% from the field. I mean, that's 6th best in the country. They're going to get some second-chance points, out-rebound Iowa State. They just have the better talent. Kansas, to me, wins this game by about 10.
All right, well, let's head to SEC country now, where 5th-ranked Auburn Tigers will host Vanderbilt. Auburn is just one of 2 remaining unbeaten teams in the country, and they do it with their offense. They rank 12th nationally, averaging 82 points per game. And let's not be too quick to count out Vanderbilt, okay, because historically they've done pretty well at Auburn, winning 5 of their last 6 games. So, Mark, Auburn's laying 14.5 points tonight. How do you see this one playing out?
I see Auburn winning the game, no doubt, but the fact of the matter is can they cover, which is a pretty big number in 14.5, and the answer is yes. And I'll tell you why, because they're a deep team. They have a ton of guys that can score. They have 4 guys that average in double figures, highlighted by their leading scorer in Samir Dowdy. Yes, Jerry Stackhouse is a pretty good team and some stars defensively with what he can do, including Scottie Pippen's son, but I don't think they can keep up in this one, Danny.
Ed, what are your thoughts?
Well, Tigers 11th and Ken Pom, you mentioned earlier that a lot of teams go into Auburn and win. But, boy, this is a completely different basketball program now. They've done some amazing things. 11th and Ken Pom right now. Vanderbilt comes in at 133rd with one of the more brutal defenses in America. So you mentioned all of those guys who are averaging double figures. If one guy isn't shooting very well, somebody else should be able to. Or it may be some sort of combination where you can expect a blowout. Auburn plays a relatively fast pace to play. 14.5 is not that big of a number, all things considered. War Eagle.
A big Auburn Tigers fan is actually competing for Peter's heart on The Bachelor, guys. So if anybody wants to enter a side gambling situation there, just let me know. All right, but let's finish out our college coverage with the nation's other undefeated team. The 15-0 San Diego State Aztecs battle it out on the road at Wyoming. And unlike Auburn, who gets it done on the offensive end, it's the Aztecs that get it done with defense. They hold opponents to just 56.8 points per game, good for 5th nationally. And however, the Aztecs have struggled playing at high altitude in Wyoming, going just 2-3 over their last 5 games in Laramie. Mark, San Diego State's giving 16 points to Wyoming. I have covered both of these teams this year. Wyoming is not very good at all. What are your thoughts?
First of all, I could never pick against my alumni. I'm an Aztec, so of course I'm going with the 13-0 San Diego State Aztecs in this one. But aside from my heart, if I'm going with my head, you mentioned their suffocating defense, Danny. That is what they hang their hat on, but they're also a really well-balanced team at the offensive end of the floor. The last time these teams met last season, the Aztecs won by 30. Now you're looking at a much smaller number. Give me the Aztecs.
They're even better than you're saying. They're actually 15-0, not even 13-0. Dave, talk to me. What do you think about this?
And their defense, 11 points better this year than they were last year. I think you said 56 and change. Last year they gave up about 68 points per game. And how about Malachi Flynn, the transfer from Washington State, leads the team in points, leads the team in assists, leads the team in steals. Not a big guy, 6'1", but an absolute baller. He's going to go out there and put up his points. I think they blow out Wyoming. I'm pretty chalky today. I like all the favorites, but it looks easy.
San Diego State team is really, really good. Even their 6th man at Matthew Mitchell used to be a starter as in senior year, now moving to the 6th man. Just a phenomenal team all around.
I was testing you, by the way. Good, you passed.
Oh, good. Thank you. I mean, I've covered them like 3 times already this season. If I don't know what I'm talking about, that's a problem.
You always know what you're talking about.
We've got more basketball coverage. Coming up a little bit later on, our experts will give you their picks for the rest of tonight's NBA slate with our rapid fire segment, which is always a whole lot of fun. And you can check out the lines for those games and more on the free FanDuel Sportsbook app, and even get free money to make your first bet. I'm literally wearing the color of money because I want you guys to win it. All you got to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up for an account using the promo code MOREWAYS25. You'll get a risk-free bet up to $500 in site credit and an additional $25 free bet. So make sure to sign up for a FanDuel account using the promo code MOREWAYS25. Take advantage of this awesome promotion. Okay, guys, let's get right into our NFL divisional round matchups, right? Let's start with our first game on Saturday with the Vikings in San Francisco. Minnesota will look to ride the momentum of last week's overtime thriller, and running back Dalvin Cook, who had a career-high 28 carries last week, adding 2 rushing touchdowns. And as good as that 49ers defense is, they've struggled at home against the run, allowing 108.2 rushing yards per game to go with a 4.2 yards per carry. So, Mark, I'm going to start with you here. The Niners are in 7-point favor with an over-under of 44.5. Do you see the rest equaling rust for the 49ers?
I actually do see a little bit of rust for the 49ers in this one. And I've done a 180, you guys, on this Minnesota Vikings team.
Yeah.
With how healthy. Remember, Dr. Chow told us last week, Dave, that Dalvin Cook would be just fine with that shoulder injury. And I think that was exactly the case when Danny just told us the numbers and how good he was. You look at the 49ers, they only covered the spread 3 times in their 8 home games this season. That's a little bit puzzling to me. And then you look at Minnesota, they've covered 4 of their last 5 games. So for me, a similar situation to last week against the Saints, pretty big number in a playoff situation. I'm taking Minnesota on the points, and I'm even sprinkling money on the Minnesota Vikings on the money line.
I could see that happening.
Really?
You mentioned Dalvin Cook's 28 carries, but there were 12 other carries, too. They ran the ball 40 times against the Saints. And even with their great receivers, and Thielen, Diggs didn't have a very good game. He didn't get targeted too much. He's probably going to have a bigger game. But even with their great receiving core, they have lived and died by the run this year. Mike Zimmer just loves to run the ball, and you can do that against San Francisco. Expect him to eat some clock with all those runs. I anticipate a low-scoring game. I like the under, and I like the Vikings.
Interesting stuff. Ed, what stands out to you here in this one?
Well, first off, the Vikings do have 1 fewer day to prepare, going from a Sunday to a Saturday, whereas the 49ers are coming off a bye week. Yes, I think there should be a concern for a little bit of rust for San Francisco, but having 1 fewer day for Minnesota to prepare, that may also be a concern as well. So when you look at intended air yards per pass play by the quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo ranks 31st in football. Where they get you is yards after catch after the completion. Now, for Kirk Cousins, he ranks 24th in this category. It's not much better, roughly a full yard, but he's 6th in yak per completion. So the question is, which defense is actually better at limiting yak? It's actually the Minnesota Vikings here, which means skull cover.
Let's move on to Saturday's divisional round slate that wraps up with the Titans at the Ravens. Baltimore comes into this one winners of 12 in a row, with 8 of those coming by wins of 2 scores. Tennessee's Ryan Tannehill threw for just 72 yards in their win at New England, which was the 4th fewest for a quarterback to win an NFL postseason game. But hey, the Titans knocked out the Patriots. There's something to be said there. The Titans are getting 9.5 points with the total set at 46.5. Mark, who do you like in this one?
I like actually the home team in this one, and I say that because everything went right for Tennessee, with the exception of a couple of turnovers there, which you mentioned by Ryan Tannehill, but everything really went right for them in the game against the New England Patriots. And now they face a Ravens defense that's number 4 against the run, number 6 against the pass. Tannehill's going to have to throw for over 250 yards to even give Tennessee a shot in this one. I know it's a little bit of a big number, but the Ravens, they are just on fire. I know that they're going to be hosting the AFC Championship game the following week. So if Dave, for that reason, hey, they won 9 games by 9 points or more this season. It's not hard for them to win games by double digits.
Well, Ravens deserve everything that they have. The number 1 seed, home field throughout, Super Bowl favorites, and they do deserve to be a 9.5-point favorite. I think it's a good line. That being said, I still think giving me the leading rusher in the league in Derrick Henry and 9.5 points, I'm going to take the points. I think that the Titans can keep this game close in the 4th quarter, eventually lose. But if you can go into Foxborough and beat the Patriots, I think mentally they're not intimidated to go into Baltimore right now.
No.
They're riding high on that win. I'm taking the points.
And remember, Baltimore rested some of their guys. So, you know, they could be knocking off some rust as well. Ed, I'm going to finish with you here. What are the numbers telling you in this matchup?
The numbers are telling me that Dave Weaver is sadly mistaken. I love Baltimore. Oh, yeah, right, exactly. I love Baltimore in this spot. They're number 1 in point differential for the regular season. If you believe in blueprints, the Patriots really taught us how to limit the Titans. Limit A.J. Brown. Try and have Derrick Henry beat you, but they only scored 14 points offensively, so it's not like Tennessee did very much in that game. Baltimore, yeah, they run the ball really, really well, but they're 4th in pass offense EPA. Titans cannot generate pressure to limit Lamar Jackson. I think Baltimore rolls here.
Baltimore rolls, says Ed. All right, well, whether you like betting on the NFL playoffs, college basketball, or the NBA, or you just like to bet on all of them like these guys, there's a bunch of fun bets that you can make on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. We're going to give you free money to do it. All you got to do is download the free FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up for an account using the promo code MOREWAYS25. You'll get a risk-free bet up to $500 in site credit and an additional $25 free bet. So sign up for an account using the promo code MOREWAYS25. And on top of making bets on the free FanDuel Sportsbook app, you can also play daily fantasy and win some cash. Good stuff there. Log on to FanDuel.com. Check out the fantasy games available for the Saturday slate. Set your lineup, and you get a chance to win. It's as easy as that, and we are going to give you the inside information because joining me now is fantasy expert Jim Saunez, and he has done the research, so you don't have to. He's doing all the work for you. You just get to make the money. Jim's going to give us his best DFS plays at each position for Saturday's divisional round games. Jim, good morning. Who made your list this week?
Yeah, good morning, Danny. And I think that for this week, it's really hard not to use Lamar Jackson, whether it's for the Saturday slate or for the full 4-game slate. He's kind of good at football, and that helps a lot in fantasy, too, because he's had at least 20 FanDuel points in every game except for one this year. He has had 30 FanDuel points 7 times. Shocker, Lamar Jackson's pretty good, even at $9,500. At running back, I want to go with whoever his running back winds up being. Could be Mark Ingram, or it could be Gus Edwards, because Ingram did not practice on Tuesday. It sounds like it's still up in the air whether he'll play. But Ingram, when the games have been close this year, has had a heavier workload. I think this game should be close, which bodes well for Mark Ingram. If he can't go, Gus Edwards last week played 68% of the snaps in Week 17, 21 carries and 1 target. So if there's no Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards is a great value play. But if Ingram does go, I do like him quite a bit here against the Titans. Moving to wide receiver, I think that Adam Thielen is in a pretty good spot. I think you could talk about Stephon Diggs, who is in the same salary range because he's going to be less popular than Thielen, coming off of Thielen's big game last week. But in the games where Thielen has been healthy this year, he has 27% of the Vikings' overall targets and 53% of their deep targets. Those are massive numbers. $7,000, a really good salary to pay for him, but he is not the best value wide receiver. That is Emmanuel Sanders, down all the way at $5,800. If you want to get to Lamar Jackson, you need value guys. And Emmanuel Sanders is that. He has 21% of the targets in games he has been active with George Kittle this year, with 33% of the deep targets. Deebo Samuel actually has lower numbers in both those categories, but is more expensive than Manny on the Saturday-only slate. So I like Deebo, too. They've been getting him involved as a rusher, so not trying to talk trash on Deebo, but Emmanuel Sanders at 58 is a really good value option if you need help getting up to Lamar Jackson.
That's great stuff, Jim. Can you not go anywhere, though, because these lovely people need to make money on Sunday. So we're going to get you back in just a couple minutes to get your best DFS plays for Sunday as well. But thank you so much for that Saturday slate. We've got plenty more to come on FanDuel's More Ways to Win. We'll be right back to break down Sunday's divisional round matchups. Plus, not to be overlooked is Monday's national championship game between Clemson and LSU. We've got you covered on the other side of the break. We're back in 2 minutes.
Do you want to bet the next race and don't have a TVG account? Get the TVG mobile app and sign up. It's fun, easy, and it's TVG. I'll show you how it works. When you bet the horse that wins, you win money too. With the TVG app, select your horse, bet type, and wager amount. Place your bet and watch the race live. Download the app and sign up now, or go to TVG.com. Join now and get a risk-free bet up to $200. TVG, your best bet.
Are you paying too much for your health insurance? Just this year, the United States Tax Cuts and Jobs Act became official, and health insurance laws have changed. If you have Obamacare, are uninsured, or struggling to afford your current health insurance, this could impact you. Call the number on your screen right now to find out how. It's free. New affordable health insurance, as well as dental coverage, is now available with low copays and deductibles and guaranteed coverage. Top quality health coverage at the lowest prices anywhere. The Affordable Health Insurance Hotline is now accepting calls. Call today. It's free. You may have insufficient coverage or may be significantly overpaying and not even realize it. If you're uninsured or unable to pay for health coverage, make this important call now. It's free. Find out if you qualify for health care, dental coverage, and more. That can start immediately. Get all the benefits that you're eligible for.
Call 1-800-601-8975. That's 1-800-601-8975.
Never miss a moment of the action with the brand new Watch TVG app, available in high definition on Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku. Finally, you can enjoy your favorite racing from the best tracks in the U.S. and across the globe without a cable subscription. And better yet, we'll bring you exclusive content, expert handicapping, and the latest news from the racing world 24 hours a day. Download the Watch TVG app now. TVG, your best bet.
Here's a look inside the FanDuel Sportsbook at the Meadowlands. If you live in New Jersey or you're just visiting the area, make sure you check out the FanDuel Sportsbook. You can take advantage of the self-betting machines while enjoying watching games on hundreds of TVs. You can instantly deposit or withdraw money from your online FanDuel account just right there. So take some time to check out the FanDuel Sportsbook at the Meadowlands if you get the chance. Even if you're in New York, it's just a quick train ride. Hop right on over. Check it out. Let's get right back into it with our guys at the first divisional round game on Sunday between the Texans and the Chiefs. This will be Kansas City's fifth home playoff game in the last 3 seasons. However, they're just 1-3 at Arrowhead. So, Mark, I'm coming to you first. Houston comes into this one seeking their first road playoff win in franchise history. They're getting 9.5 points. What's your pick here?
Well, I think the other shoe is going to drop this week for the Houston Texans, Danny. And remember, this is a revenge spot for the Kansas City Chiefs. Take you back to mid-October when these teams met, and it actually was a 31-24 win for Houston in Kansas City. It's going to be really cold there inside Arrowhead, and I think Patrick Mahomes and the rest of that offense with a whole week to rest coming into this divisional or conference semifinal, it's a golden opportunity for Andy Reid and them to run this one up. I see them winning going away. They'll be up by 10, 14 points at halftime.
Wow.
Deshaun Watson was sacked 7 times last week by the Bills. You can only go so far with smoke and mirrors. I mean, let's face it, their offensive line is not good, and their defense is not good. They gave about 390 yards per game this year. Kansas City is going to shred them. I think we're looking at a 45-14 type of game here. Just don't think. And Watson, by the way, could have been sacked 12 times. You know, he was scrambling and doing a good job to avoid even more sacks. So I don't see this offensive line holding up. And I don't even think Kansas City is going to need their punter once in this game. I think they score on every single touch against this Houston defense. You know, Josh Allen threw the ball 46 times. What's Mahomes going to throw it? 70? I mean, if he wants to, he will. And I think he'll shred this Houston secondary. I like the Chiefs.
Ed, these guys make it easy for me when they agree here in studio. I'm coming to you now. Chiefs were an NFL best 10-5-1 against the spread. Can they cover 10 here?
Well, I'm sorry, Danny, that I'm not going to make it easy on you because I'm actually going to take Houston to cover here. Wow. I think all of your points are valid. I think, yes, Houston's offensive line has not graded out very well. Defense has not graded out very well. Here's the deal, though. Kansas City, yeah, the offense is really good, but over the last 4 weeks, 2 of the top targets in terms of weighted opportunity are Damian Williams, a running back, and Travis Kelce, a tight end. They're not Baltimore, who's going to score at will. They are effectively conservative, which means I really trust them to win the ball game. But 9.5 is a large spread. And something else, too. Deshaun Watson chose not to throw the ball in the first half last week. He can do enough things to keep up. He played really well in the second half against a good Buffalo defense. I think Houston can do just enough to cover, but they're not winning.
Let's have some fun here and talk some prop bets, shall we? Here's a few that we're looking at. Dave, you're going to be first here. Chiefs total for this game is 30.5 points. The over is -104. The under is -118. Is that just too many points for KC, or you think they're rolling?
Is that by halftime or by the end of the third quarter? If you're giving me all 4 quarters, they're going to hit this number, I think, midway through the third quarter and eventually score 45 points. So I'm going 2 touchdowns over that number, way over.
Okay, Ed, I've got a really good one for you that could turn into a very nice payday here. Both quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, throw for 1+ passing touchdown in each half. That's paying out 5-1. So do you see that happening?
Danny, say that one more time for me. Just make sure I get all of it.
Let me make sure that I get it all correctly for you. You good?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm good. I promise. Mahomes, 11 red zone touchdowns. He missed a couple of games. Kansas City is much more comfortable running inside the 20-yard line. Chiefs like to run. Texans love to run in the red zone. Carlos Hyde, quarterback design runs, especially if the Chiefs jump out to a big lead, which is possible. They won't pass much in the second half. So I'm going to pass.
All right, well, let's finish with the last of the divisional round games with the Seahawks on the road at Lambeau Field to face the Packers. Green Bay comes in 18-5 all time at home in the playoffs and have won 3 out of their last 4 in the frozen tundra. And Seattle's DK Metcalf caught everyone's attention last week, logging 160 receiving yards, which was the most by a rookie in postseason history. And after the game, Russell Wilson had high praises for his rookie wideout. Wilson said he's like American Pharaoh out there. He gets stronger as the race goes on. So, Dave, you are our horse racing expert. What exactly did Russell Wilson mean with this comparison to the Triple Crown winning horse? And do you really think Metcalf can help Seattle cover 4 points at Lambeau?
Well, like a thoroughbred who's bred for stamina, you know, as the game went on, he got stronger, just like that Triple Crown winner. But guess what? Even American Pharaoh lost a couple of times in his career, and I think that's what's going to happen here to Metcalf and the Seahawks. They are going to run into an absolute wall here in the form of the Green Bay Packers defense. I think they got by that, you know, injury-riddled Eagles team. Barely, only 17-9. I thought they should have won that game by 30 with everything that transpired there. I just think that the Packers defense is just too strong. Nobody was sacked more in the regular season than Russell Wilson. 48 times. Only got to him once in that last game, but I think the Packers might sack him 6 or 7 times. Remember against the Vikings, they held them to 7 first downs, 139 yards. I think that's the type of defense that's going to show up here, completely shut down the Seahawks. I have the Packers winning 28-10.
Well, this is where it gets a little interesting because I'm curious to go to Ed, but first, Mark, let me know if you agree with Dave. It sounded like you did.
I totally agree with Dave in this one. And this is not a Seattle team which we saw in the first 10, 11 weeks of the season. It's very much different, especially now that they're playing without any running game at all. You have no Chris Carson, no Rashad Penny. So you're turning to Marshawn Lynch. And yes, he got in the end zone last week, but that's not going to help them out there in the cold, frigid conditions at Lambeau. I love the Packers here in this spot. For me, you know, I kind of like 4 seems like a little bit of a dead number, so I might even just buy 1 point. I know that'd probably take it up to minus 125, minus 130, but I think you're still really safe there at -3 with Green Bay at home.
You didn't wake up in beast mode, Mark?
No.
Well, this is what I was getting at. Ed just is a giant hater on the Packers, so I'm curious that in this situation, Ed, who are you taking?
Well, you've taught me a lot about Aaron Rodgers, and you've shown me the light, or at least have attempted to show me the light a lot of times. And so in that spirit, in this new year, new me, I'm still taking the Seahawks. I am not going with the Packers. No way on Aaron Rodgers at all. 6th in adjusted sack rate, this offensive line. Russell Wilson has been pressured. He's been forced to scramble. He's had to do a heck of a lot, and he's come through just about every time. Sells the #1 total QBR among all gunslingers who played last weekend. Packers may also resort to the run in inefficient situations. I see value in the money line for Seattle.
Ed, are you ready for a plot twist? I kind of agree with you.
Wait. We ran out of time last show for me to throw a line back to Ed that said, Ed, you're better than that. He said Russell Wilson should be the MVP. Come on. Lamar Jackson should be the MVP.
Right, but
so
Russell
he's just in love with Russell Wilson.
Ed, stick to the yak.
He's just basically betting the Seahawks because Russell Wilson is going to carry that team on their back. They were able to do that against Eagles.
Yes.
You're better than that, Ed.
Man, I don't know. You guys know I cover the Seahawks. I got some love for them. Well, Ed, I'm with you on this one. Just take it.
Bet with your head, not your heart, Danny.
Infrastructure with Baltimore. Look, Lamar Jackson's phenomenal, no doubt about it. The infrastructure of Baltimore is amazing. Seattle, the pieces around Russell Wilson, not as good as the pieces around Lamar Jackson. It is Russell Wilson who has carried Seattle.
Okay, let's get to the fun prop bets here, gentlemen. They are on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. We're going to see what our experts here are taking in this one. Mark, I'm going to start with you. First half total for Seattle and Green Bay is 23.5 points. Over gets you -105, while under is -115. So which side are you taking here?
I think there's a reason, Danny, the fact that there's a little more juice on the under there. So for that reason, I think 23.5 is a lot. Dave threw out a score prediction earlier here discussing this game, and I think he's pretty close to the number there. It's going to be a low-scoring first half, and I say that because we know Seattle likes to run the ball and establish the run. They don't have a run game, but consequently, Pete Carroll's going to continue to go to it. And, of course, Aaron Jones, he's been one of the best running backs in football football this year. You know the Packers are going to use the run to set up the pass, go under.
Okay, Dave, let's finish up our NFL props with you here.
Okay.
Aaron Jones to score 1+ touchdown in each half. This prop is getting plus 490 odds. So do you see that happening?
Well, he did have 19 touchdowns during the regular season, as many as anybody.
Fantasy title. Thanks, Aaron Jones.
The key is he needs to score that first half touchdown, because if you don't get it by halftime, you lose this bet.
Right.
I think he's going to get a touchdown in the fourth quarter when the Packers begin to pull away, but I do think he'll get one early. So I'm going to take the nearly 5-1 odds on this and say that Aaron Jones will score a touchdown in each of the halves.
And I'm going to say you guys should listen to him and do the same thing. On top of making bets on the free FanDuel Sportsbook app, you can also play daily fantasy and win cash. So just log on to FanDuel.com, check out the fantasy games available for the Sunday slate. Check, set your lineup, and you get a chance to win. It is that easy. We're going to give you the inside track for the best information. So Jim Sonis is back here with us. He's our fantasy expert. He's going to give us his best DFS plays at each position for Sunday's divisional round games. Jim, welcome back. Who made Sunday's list?
Yeah, Dave was talking about Russell Wilson's sacks. That's a fully valid point, especially with Dwayne Brown being banged up and this Packers' strength, their defense being their defensive line. But it's different in fake football. I want guys who are going to run, and Russell Wilson's been doing that a lot recently. With Chris Carson out, Russell Wilson has actually run 17 times the past 2 games, which helps give him a good floor for fantasy. If he gets a rushing touchdown, that's awesome for his ceiling. So $8,100, a really good salary. I want Patrick Mahomes when I can get there, but Wilson's salary, 81, is pretty attractive as well. At running back, I can get a lot of value in Damian Williams because he came back week 16, had a good role there. Then week 17, in a game the Chiefs wanted to win, he played 70% of the snaps. If you look at the games this year where Williams has played at least half the snaps, he averages 12.9 carries and 4.6 targets per game. Chiefs are big favorites at home. I love Damian Williams. At wide receiver, I'm fine going back to Tyler Lockett. Yeah, it was DK Metcalf who blew up last week, but Lockett still has the better target shares over the past 4 games since he got healthy again. He has 27% of the overall targets and 40% of the deep targets in that time. He is $6,700. He's cheaper than Metcalf. I like both, but I'll take the savings with Tyler Lockett. If you want a value play, I think that Allen Lazard is very interesting for the Packers because he got a role change recently. He's played at least 75% of the snaps in now 3 straight games. He's averaging 2.7 deep targets per game in that 3-game sample. Part of that's because Rodgers threw deep 23 times against the Lions, but, it's still Allen Lazard, $5,400 tied to a quarterback I still personally like a lot in Aaron Rodgers. I'm with you there, Danny, for sure. I think that when you get those savings and a guy who's going to be on the field a lot, I'm going to take it for sure, helping me to get up to guys like Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson.
Jim, great stuff. The guys on my right and left are both saying what a great job you do and how they've followed your information all season long. And like you heard, we've got a fantasy football champion to my left in Mark Rogandino.
Right.
You can get more of Jim's information on his podcast. It's called Heat Check Fantasy Podcast. It's available every Monday and Thursday on the Number Fire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. Thanks so much, Jim. Appreciate it. Okay, now, guys, what could be better than this weekend's playoff matchups? Well, how about a Monday night capper of college football's national championship game, huh? It's a battle of Clemson's top-ranked defense against LSU's #1 ranked offense. This will just be the second time in 2 seasons that Clemson enters the game as an underdog. The last time that happened, guys, that was last year's national championship game where Clemson just beat the crap out of Alabama 44-16. I love that, guys. Mark, I'm going to start with you here. LSU, a 5.5-point favorite. Total is 69.5. What's your take?
I've been on LSU for a couple of months now. I think that they are just on a path of destiny, really, when you look at Joe Burrow has been able to do with the offense. And they do make just enough plays on defense. The one thing is, this isn't going to be the shootout we saw in the semifinal for LSU and Oklahoma. This will be a much tighter game. So I'm a little nervous with that half point. I might buy a half point and bring it down just a little bit. But I think that LSU, and I've been with them for a couple months now, like I said, I think LSU, they're a team of destiny here, Dave.
Dave, who's your national champion?
The Clemson Tigers.
Okay.
I could have sworn that before the 2 games were played, that if Clemson wins and LSU wins, Clemson was going to be a 1, maybe 2-point favorite. I think this is an absolute overreaction to the way LSU shredded a terrible Oklahoma defense that had some injuries and had some things going on, and they're not very good to begin with. But this is Clemson's defense. They show up. They don't know how to lose. Trevor Lawrence doesn't know how to lose. The only thing that scares me is that I know how to lose. I'm very good at it. You guys know that. But Clemson never loses, and they're getting 5.5 points. I mean, it's just not only a huge line because of that Oklahoma game, or was no matter what the result of the score of those two, LSU was always going to be a 5.5-point favorite? I don't think so. I think it's strictly because they look so good in that game against Oklahoma. I'm not going to give them as much credit.
Dave, what's the biggest college football win of the year? If you ask me, it's LSU going in and beating Alabama earlier this season. They're going to have some trouble at the beginning of the game, but once they get revving and that another week healthy for their star running back, the tools on the outside, we're going to talk more about Joe Burrow plenty because he's going to have a huge game.
Yeah, and I want you to give me some analytics to keep in mind for this game.
Absolutely. Well, in terms of points per scoring opportunities since week 5, that nail-biter between Clemson and North Carolina, since that game, Clemson has actually had the better offense. You do have to adjust for strength of schedule. The SEC is certainly tougher than the ACC, but we have seen Trevor Lawrence perform really, really well against stiff competition, so that's not a real concern for me. Joe Burrow did have the best total QBR among all gunslingers in bowl games, but Lawrence was not far behind, and he faced a much, much tougher defense in Ohio State, and he had to play from behind for some of that game. So I'm expecting a higher scoring affair. I love the over in this game. I think we will see something in the 70s, maybe even 80s. But as for the spread, it could go back and forth to where the last team with the ball could win. So I want points. Give me Clemson to cover.
Awesome stuff. Well, whether you like betting props, parlays, or just straight up game picks, it's all available on the very much free FanDuel Sportsbook app. And we'll even give you a free $25 to place your first bet. Sounds good, right? Here's how to get the cash. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, use the promo code MOREWAYS25. You'll get a risk-free bet up to $500 in site credit and an additional $25 free bet. So make sure you sign up for a FanDuel account and use that promo code MOREWAYS25 and make some money. Plenty more to come on FanDuel's More Ways to Win. NBA game picks coming up, plus our resident pro football doctor will join us and let you know which key injuries we need to look out for ahead of this weekend's NFL Divisional round games. He was crucial last week, and our experts are giving us their best bets, so you absolutely don't want to miss it. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Do you want to bet the next race and don't have a TVG account? Get the TVG mobile app and sign up. It's fun, easy, and it's TVG. I'll show you how it works. When you bet the horse that wins, you win money too. With the TVG app, select your horse, bet type, and wager amount. Place your bet and watch the race live. Download the app and sign up now, or go to TVG.com. Join now and get a risk-free bet up to $200. TVG, your best bet.
Is your credit card debt driving you batty? We're going up! Just like your credit card fees and interest rates. Always fear, the debt suckers are here. One call to Consolidated Credit can get the debt suckers off your back. Consolidated Credit will lower your interest rates, consolidate your bills into one easy payment, and get you out of debt fast. Call Consolidated Credit and get your life back.
Call 800-231-5776. 800-231-5776.
Mom, thank God you're going to be okay.
So relieved. But you both should know when my time comes, I have a final expense policy with Senior Care USA.
If you're over 50, call Senior Care USA now to learn more about final expense insurance plans.
When I called, the quote was free, and there was no pressure. Oh, so glad you'll be taken care of.
Call 1-800-383-2391. That's 1-800-383-2391.
Never miss a moment of the action with the brand new Watch TVG app, available in high definition on Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku. Finally, you can enjoy your favorite racing from the best tracks in the U.S. and across the globe without a cable subscription. And better yet, we'll bring you exclusive content, expert handicapping, and the latest news from the racing world 24 hours a day. Download the Watch TVG app now. TVG, your best bet.
Welcome back to More Ways to Win. We've got 6 more NBA games on the schedule for tonight, and we are running our fast break offense here, putting 24 seconds on the clock. Guys, I'm putting you on the spot. Rapid fire analysis. This is super fun. Mark, starting with you. The Bucks are out west to face Golden State, where they are 13-point favorite. Give me your pick.
I'm taking the Bucks all day. I know it's a big number, but they're coming off of a rare loss against the San Antonio Spurs, so an opportunity to bounce back here. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he is healthy, and the fact that Golden State is dinged up without probably their best scorer right now in D'Angelo Russell. Draymond Green can't carry the load all by himself. The Warriors continue to be in trouble this season. Take Milwaukee.
I thought you were in trouble there with that clock, but 2 seconds to go and you nailed it. Ed, it's your turn here. San Antonio is at Boston. The Celtics are laying 6. Who's covering in this one? Go.
Well, Jason Tatum ranks 5th in real plus-minus, in large part because his defense is so amazing. To find the best for the Spurs in that category, you got to go all the way down to Lonnie Walker outside of the top 50. Kemba Walker isn't playing near the minutes as Tatum, but there are clear and distinct roles for the strengths of these players that maybe didn't exist last season for Boston. Give me the seat.
Dave, you've got the Rockets in Atlanta. First of all, Ed, kudos to you. You did a great job. Hawks, 8-point home favorite here in this one. What are your thoughts?
They're a 8-point home dog, and they should be, because Houston is going to cover this game. Houston typically is not very good against the spread against subpar teams, but when you dig a little bit deeper, they are good against Atlanta. 8-3 against the spread the last 11 in Atlanta, and 4-1 against the spread their last 5 overall against Atlanta. So give me the Rockets to blow them out.
In the middle of your offense, Dave, because not only did you do that, I gave you a flagrant foul. You got extra points because you covered me up there. Mark, I'm going back to you here at the Hornets. Welcome in the Raptors, who are laying 2.5 on the road. What is your pick?
Well, I'm a little concerned about where the Raptors are right now. They blew one last night at home against the Portland Trail Blazers. Part of the reason, they're a really injured team. No Marc Gasol, no Pascal Siakam, no Fred VanVleet. So I continue to be concerned about this team. I stay away from the side, and I'm going to the over, 207.5. The last time these teams played 6 weeks ago, the total ended up at 228. Take the over.
Ooh, at the nick of time. And you know what? Rip City. That's not a surprise. Okay, moving on now. Ed, your turn. The Bulls at the Pelicans. The Pelicans are giving 3.5. Ready, set, go.
Well, New Orleans ranks in the middle of the pack in effective field goal percentage and turnover percentage, and the middle of the pack is better than Chicago in both of those categories. Where the Bulls do have a major advantage, they do force turnovers. No one is better at that rate than anyone else. A lot of great defense out of the Bulls, but Wendell Carter Jr. playing amazing defense. He may not play. That's significant. Pelicans cover.
Ooh, great job, Ed. You guys are doing really good at this, Dave. No pressure, but no one else has gotten a shot clock violation. So we're going to finish here with the Wizards getting 10.5 points on the road at Orlando. Who is taking this one?
Well, you know, Washington is in a big over trend right now. Orlando's on a big under trend. So I'm going to stay away from the total, and let's focus on the Washington Wizards getting the 10.5 points. They are 6-2 against the spread. Their last 8 meetings in Orlando. I'm going to take the points. And Orlando typically doesn't blow 2 teams out in a row. When winning by 10 points or more, they're just 2-6 against the spread their next 8 games. So I say they win by less than 10.
Oh, guys, unbelievable. 6-0 on that one. Great stuff. All right, let's jump back into our NFL playoff matchup for the weekend. And before you place your bets, we've got to know which guys are banged up heading into the divisional round, of course. So joining us now is Dr. David Chow. He is the former head doctor for the Chargers, so he's in a very unique position to talk about some of the injuries that we've been seeing this postseason. Remember, you can follow him on Twitter. His handle is @ProFootballDoc. Doc, thanks for joining us. Love when you're on the show. Great insight from you. First, let's talk Texans wide receiver Will Fuller and his nagging groin injury when he's able to play. Houston's a different team, though. They're 8-3 when he suits up. So what is his status going into Sunday? And if he does play, can we expect any sort of impact from him?
Well, it's always a pleasure to be on, and thank you for that. Will Fuller isn't just a groin strain. It's not just a hamstring strain. He's got both. But also, he's still accommodating for that ACL that he came off of from last year. Remember, Dalvin Cook 2 years ago had the ACL, and last season dealt with hamstring issues and had a down year, and this year had a great year. That might be the case for Will Fuller. This has been a down year for him, relatively speaking. But for this divisional round matchup, he will play. He's going to be effective, I think, in running some go routes, which is his specialty in stretching the field. He may not be fully 100% for cutting and other things, but I think he'll be good to go for his patented go routes.
Okay, good stuff. I want to know now about Ravens running back Mark Ingram because he popped up on Baltimore's injury report with a calf injury. Head coach John Harbaugh declined to comment, shocking, on what his status was. But what kind of impact do you think this calf injury might have on a featured back like him?
Well, I mean, you noticed, too, it was shocking that John Harbaugh wasn't optimistic about an injury, right? He's been very optimistic always on injuries. And this end-of-season calf injury with a pop, we said several weeks ago that it's going to linger. And I still believe he will play in this divisional matchup. But at what percent is the question, and will he re-aggravate it? And there was some optimism last week when he practiced. And this week, it's you'll find out this weekend kind of stuff. And he was not practicing yesterday. So it seemed like he had a minor setback of some sort. Calf injuries linger. This is probably the one fly in the Ravens' health ointment, so to speak, where they're going to have to watch this. This may be something that affects them this week and next week, if there is a next week as well.
Oh, that's great insight there, Doc. Appreciate that. He's got great info for you at profootballdoc.com. He gave us great insight about what Dalvin Cook would look like last week, which was awesome information as well. So make sure you remember to follow him on Twitter for more injury information. His handle is at profootballdoc. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, we got to move on now because we've heard analysis from Dr. Chow. So we got to do a quick recap of our playoff matchups, and we're going to start with the Vikings in San Francisco against the 49ers. Mark, the Niners are 7-point favorites. Over under total, you can see right there, 44.5 total points. How do you see this game playing out?
Despite Jimmy G being one of the most handsome men in the NFL, next to Dave and I in our picks.
Sure. Are you in the NFL?
Yeah, well, we cover the NFL.
Okay.
So the fact of the matter is I just don't believe in him and what the Niners are doing yet this year. I know they've had an outstanding regular season, but I really like Minnesota in this situation. I told you earlier, I think you even sprinkle something on the money line here because Minnesota is playing their best football right now.
Dave, let's get your pick. And by the way, I think you could be in the NFL. I've watched you do 20 push-ups in the middle of these commercial breaks.
Do onside kicks.
It's a big family. Big family.
You know, not only Jimmy G, but you also have Kittle, Samuel, Mostert. These guys have no playoff experience. Yeah. You know, who's to say that they're going to show up and be able to beat the Vikings, who just went in? You picked the Saints to win it all. Saints were definitely a team to be reckoned with. And Minnesota went in and beat New Orleans. So if they can beat New Orleans, they know they can go in and beat San Francisco. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I have Minnesota winning 23-17.
By the way, what was your reaction at the television screen, out of curiosity?
Oh, goodness. Well, both games, the Patriots, and to think that Tom Brady and Drew Brees are both out heading into the conference semifinals.
You had a rough weekend, is what I'm hearing. Ed, what stands out to you in this one?
Well, in terms of pace of play, both teams rank in the middle of the pack. In terms of passing offense, though, Vikings and Niners rank 5th and 6th in EPA, respectively. I think both teams should be able to score. Look, Kirk Cousins does not have the best reputation in the NFL. I understand that. But he had a couple of phenomenal throws against the Saints defense that played well in those throws. It's just Kirk Cousins came through. And so I think both offenses can score here. It should be a tight game. So I want points. I think the Vikings can cover here.
Okay, great stuff, guys. Let's move on now to Saturday's divisional round slate. Wraps up with the Titans at the Ravens. Baltimore comes in winners of 12 in a row. That's insane. 8 of those coming by wins of more than 2 scores. So, Mark, the Titans are getting 9.5 points with the total set at 46.5. Who do you like in this one?
Ravens. Lamar Jackson, he's going to have a huge game in this one. It's one thing for the Titans to think maybe we can slow down the run, especially since we just heard from Dr. Chow that Ingram is a little bit banged up, but it's a whole nother thing to stop Lamar Jackson. I don't think they can do it. I'll take the Ravens, even though it's a big number.
Dave?
Well, who's the team that nobody wanted to play in the playoffs around Week 13, Week 14? The Tennessee Titans. They were red hot, and they lost a few. They snuck in by getting that wild card, but then they go in and beat the Patriots. Crazy. I think they can keep this game close. I think 9.5, too much for the league's leading rusher and Derrick Henry. I like the Titans.
Ed, we're going to finish with you. What are the numbers telling you in this one?
Our Ravens will take care of business in this one. Number 1 in point differential for the entire season. And look, the Patriots, I think, taught us how to cover A.J. Brown and how to limit this Titans passing attack. Yeah, Derrick Henry ran all over the field, but they only scored 14 points offensively, did Tennessee. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was an outstanding performance by them from that phase of the ball. In terms of Baltimore, they're 4th in pass offense EPA, and they run really, really well with Lamar Jackson. And look, if Mark Ingram cannot be that effective, Gus Edwards is more than capable of filling that role at running back. I think Baltimore wins this one easily.
Okay, well, next let's recap our first divisional round game on Sunday. That's between the Texans and the Chiefs. This one will be Kansas City's 5th home playoff game in the last 3 seasons. However, they've just gone 1-3 in those games. So, Mark, Houston comes into this one seeking their first road playoff win in franchise history. They're getting 9.5 points in KC. So, what is your pick?
We don't talk about it much here when we talk about which sides to take in games, but I think if you talk about the last game, Baltimore, and this game, this is a perfect 2-team teaser opportunity. While I think Kansas City is going to cover that 9.5 points and win by double digits, I think if you put those two together in a teaser, you're looking pretty good.
Dave?
I don't like that because you're teasing down from 9.5 to 3.5, which is kind of a tricky number because you're going to need to win by 4. I think that the Chiefs will. I think the Chiefs are going to win by 30. So I think the Titans could end up losing by 3, which is going to mess up your teaser. But I think the Chiefs blow them out here. I think their punter, what do they wear, the robe or that long jacket? He can sit under the heater all game. He's never going to have to come off the bench.
Oh, my goodness.
Chiefs are going to score on every single possession.
This is like his shutout notice call, right?
No,
shutout notice.
If you're really looking for where to bet, it's nice to know that someone is very passionate about their pick. So, Ed, I'm coming to you. Are you passionate about yours? Can the Chiefs cover here?
I think the Texans can cover here, in large part because Will Fuller, the receiver, did not play last week. Houston's offense is very, very different when he's on the field because he's one of the few deep targets that Deshaun Watson has. He can run very well, can Watson, but if he can throw very well, then I think they can keep up in a potential shootout.
All right, great stuff. Let's finish now with the last of the divisional round games with the Seahawks on the road at Lambeau Field to face the Packers. Green Bay comes in 18-5. All-time at home in the playoffs. That's an insane record, and won 3 out of their last 4 in the frozen tundra. So, Dave, the Packers are giving 4 points with a total 46.5. How do you see this one playing out?
I think the Packers just have too much defense for Russell Wilson to work his magic one more time. I think it's the end of the road for the Seahawks. This is the best defense that Aaron Rodgers has had to work with since 2009-2010. He's went a whole decade with needing to win games 45-38. Now he knows, he needs a couple of touchdowns out of the Packers to win 14-13, 17-10. I think Green Bay gets it done with their defense.
Mark?
I know we haven't seen a ton of vintage Aaron Rodgers this season, but I think the fact that last weekend you saw Drew Brees and Tom Brady, kind of his contemporaries, get knocked out of the postseason, I think you are going to see a 3-touchdown passing performance from Aaron Rodgers. And Dave mentioned the defense. They'll take care of the other end of the field.
Ed, who are you taking? Wrap this one up for me.
I'm taking the Seahawks to cover here. I think Aaron Rodgers has had an average season with a solid running game, with a solid offensive line. I think Russell Wilson can do enough to keep up and cover.
Okay, guys, the Super Bowl is less than a month away. Can you believe it? The future remains bright for the 8 teams left. But as you all know, there can only be one champion. And the Ravens pace the field as the favorite at plus 195, followed by the Niners at plus 320. The long shots here are the Texans at plus 3,300. Dave, who's your Super Bowl winner?
I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs at the plus 340. But I'm going to take it one step further. There's also a wager that's called Name the Finalist. You can say who they're going to play, and playing the Packers, that is plus 800. And then there's another one called Correct Result, where you say who's going to win the Super Bowl over what team. So the Chiefs beating the Packers 14-1. I'm going to give you the correct Super Bowl result right there.
Wow, impressive. Mark, can you even follow that up?
No, so I'll keep it short and sweet. Dave, thank you for mentioning that.
Just give us a winner at least.
Thank you for mentioning that I was on the Saints all season long, and they're no longer in the picture. I'll take Kansas City.
Mark, if you don't know by now, we have to give each other, some harsh times in case it just doesn't work out. Yeah, it is accountability time. Ed, it's your turn. Who raises the Lombardi Trophy this year?
Well, the key with this bet is you want to find a team that's least likely to have something fluky happen to them. And I think Baltimore has the easiest road to the Super Bowl. So they're a favorite for a reason, so I'm taking them.
Okay, guys, after all that analysis, I want to know who your best bets are for tonight. So, Dave, starting with you, give me your best bet and let me know why.
And by the way, I had the Browns, so at least your team made the playoffs,
Exactly.
Mark. My best bet is the Knicks and the Jazz going over the 216.5. Utah seems to have a lot of fun against bad teams, putting up a ton of points. I think the Knicks can score as well. The last 7 times these two teams have played, it's gone over every single time.
Mark, it's your turn. What's your best bet of the day?
Well, I mentioned teasers earlier in the show, but another bet I like sometimes is a money line parlay, and I say that because if you're not comfortable with the side and the number that you're having to give or get, then you can partner two money line games. So for that reason, I go tonight with the Magic and the Celtics money line parlay. Comes out to about what, minus 160.
Last but absolutely not least, Ed, give me your best bet.
Wofford Samford under 149.5. Terriers ranked 347th in possessions per game. Offense ranks in the top 50 in KenPom, sure. But if they have a bad shooting game, they may score in the 40s. Samford plays a much faster pace, but they're 220th in KenPom. So we have an offense that may be a little bit lackluster against a very slow-paced offense. Take the under here. This might be a cry for help. I don't know.
No, I love that. That's the best part of the show right there.
Where did you?
Love it.
It's a high school game out in Texas.
Do you have an allegiance towards one, or what's going on? You just dig that up out of nowhere.
They're just worthy of our time, Danny. They're worthy of our time.
I just love it. That's the best part about best bets. Great job, guys. That's a wrap for this edition of FanDuel's More Ways to Win. Thanks, Dave, Mark, and Ed, for joining us today. Great stuff, as always. Remember, you can catch Ed's podcast. It's called Hazard Play on iTunes and the Vocal app. It comes out every Thursday. And you guys have got to check out our football preview show. It is on Friday. It starts at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I wore green just for you because I want you to make money. Best of luck with all of your bets. See you next time.